Hello and welcome. My name is Iretiola, and it gives me deep joy to welcome you to another edition of my show, Oge, where we celebrate the best that Africa has to offer. Now, some would say that some of our biggest failings as a people is our inability to control our narrative, our inability to keep accurate records and track and record history. Today we're profiling two individuals who are pillars of the art community both here and abroad. Not only are they successful artists in their own rights, what makes them special and unique is that they use their platforms and networks and everything that they have to ensure that we track history, keep accurate records, all with a view to controlling our narrative. For these two, it's not just art, movies and music, it's heritage. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll go straight into the show. Welcome back. Now, if you're just tuning in, the name of the show is Oge, and I am still Iretiola. Now, it's time to go straight into it. Now, let me guess. Do I need to introduce Adebantu? I don't think so. I'll let him do all the talking.
My name is Adebantu. I'm a musician. I'm German-Nigerian. My mom being German, my dad Nigerian. I grew up in Nigeria and in Germany. I'm fluent in German and in English, a bit of Yoruba, a bit of Pidgin. I see myself as an afropolitan. That's why the music concert series that I curate at Freedom Park every third Friday of the month is called Afropolitan Vibes. I am into administrating music and talents, and I'm also the leader of a 13-piece collective known as Bantu. Afropolitan is one of those hip words that wannabe smart Alex come up with every once in a while to kind of like stir the whole pot of multiculturalism and try to get white people to listen up. So it's nothing more than being a Lagosian and being true to what being Lagosian means, open to all kinds of cultures, fluent in so many languages, in so many styles. I mean, we've been at the epicenter of globalization for almost 400 years now, since our very first encounter with the Europeans. We've assimilated, reinvented ourselves constantly. So that's what Afropolitan is all about. I think the Nigerian music industry or scene, whatever you want to call it, has definitely seen a massive improvement and an incredible acceptance globally. They've transcended world music to become a global pop force, which is quite a feat, considering the fact that no one would assume that the global pop market will look at Africa with envy, with awe, and with even a sense of pride like African Americans do. So there has been a massive evolution. We don't really have an industry that caters to the needs and services, the needs of all of those involved, all the stakeholders, the producers, the songwriters, the sound engineers, the label owners. I mean, it's very vast when you talk about an industry, and it's not only about that one person or that group that is successful. A lot of people don't really make it, and a lot of people are frustrated because rights are not being respected, people are not being paid for their services. Yeah, we have copyright societies, but I don't know anyone that's seen a check. And those are the problems. And I'm also scared for a lot of kids that are now signing like global major music industry deals, because it's a lot of pressure, and the question is, can they live up to the expectations? With these kids, I think there's a lot of promise, but the question is, are they really ready? Do they have the team that understands what it takes to be a force? Because Rihanna that you're seeing out there, she has like 100 people working for her, from the stylist to the songwriting team to the producers, the lawyers, the engineers. There's a whole massive team protecting that one brand. And here in Nigeria, it's a bit difficult, to predict where it's all going to go to. But with that said, I'm not trying to play wet blankets here. I'm just saying, let's be cautious and let's not get high on the hype. Nigeria has been dysfunctional right from its inception. I mean, our politics has been rigged. We've gone through all kinds of traumas. So that ripples And it kind of like breeds a certain mindset, you know. And a lot of people here are pretty myopic and they're focused on instant gratification. But the question is, who helps balance, you know? We don't have a lot of people being honest about the challenges they're facing. Everyone goes, oh, I'm doing very well. My endorsement deal, fantastic. But no one is going to tell you that the ringtone business is highly criminal on the continent, in Africa, not only Nigeria, where the sharing formula is not one that is being done or implemented in Europe, because, I mean, they would take you to court right away, where rights are not being protected, where government intervention is just nothing but lip service, you know. So there's a lot of frustration. 99.9% of those in the music or film industry do not know anything about the history of that industry within the context of Nigeria. So everyone be like, well, I'm doing this new cinema, I'm coming up with new Nigerian cinema, and they forget what Herbert Ogunde was doing, you know, and other pioneers. They don't understand the role that government once played in the 60s, 70s, and where it all went wrong, you know, and everyone is just out here to kind of like reinvent history according to their own convenience. It's a general Nigerian thing. We have leaders that keep reinventing history. So I guess we're in good company.
Stay strong no matter how strong the blow. For there's so much compassion for the deep down inside. For to make sure I take life on the joyride. Embrace the sun, dance to the moon's night. Track the stars, follow the light. I'm waiting. Oh, I know that God is there.
How best do we re-narrate that which we didn't experience and that we only know from hearsay? How do we access records that are non-existent? How do we reinvent ourselves? For mine, I love sharing information. I love sharing stories. And that is how I've become who I am, because I had many teachers. And with that, I've started branching into producing documentaries. I'm involved in Elders Corner, the history of Nigeria told through its musical icons. And we've been working for 6 years, filming, talking to our musical legends, getting them to tell their stories and documenting it. The same thing I do with Afropolitan Vibes. And with Afropolitan Vibes, I invite established acts, old veterans that people have forgotten about. I mean, when you have Orlando Julius or Jimmy Sholanke sing here, and all the Ajay Butters and all the Wizkid fans are jumping and singing along, it touches you. You're like, wow, there is a connection. These kids, even me, myself, I just need to be reminded, and then I can connect the dots. You're making people more and more aware and open to who they really are. Because the Nigeria I grew up in, the Nigeria I'm willing to die for, is that Nigeria that was always open towards all kinds of religious philosophies, music, sounds, images, you know, films, you know, all kinds of things. And then all of a sudden, I'm in a Lagos, a Nigeria that is also kind of like bottled up, all about pigeonholing. And I'm like, I just ran away from this in Europe. I didn't come back to re-experience this. So that is my own humble contribution. I've learned through my experiences in the West that no one tells your stories better than you. You have to be extremely disciplined. You have to work on your craft day in, day out, and also understand the business. It's a music business. And you have to read, you have to understand contracts, you have to understand where the world is in terms of agreements between multinationals, telecommunication operators, and the artists and studios. Just going to the World Wide Web, learn so-called all the information. Most especially, be prepared to constantly reinvent yourself. Don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid of discarding who people assume you are and embracing a new you. It's only when you are fearless that you can become timeless. Being true to who you are. Be caught kissing on the streets of Lagos. Fashion suicide. There's one thing about being daring, but when you look like a parrot, not quite convincing. Not every man should wear a beard, please. Beard gang is not for everyone, please. Male to male, the hats, man. You got to connect to the 50s, because when the gentleman had the hat on, it was happening. The ladies like handkerchiefs, so always make sure you have one on you, because it comes in handy when they're crying, when they need someone to take away the sweat. So hankies come in handy. Most especially, always try to add a bit of the African into whatever you're wearing, but in a subtle way, in a stylish way, you know? The neoclassic gentleman, afropolitan look. That's what we want to see. The contemporary Nigerian woman fascinates me because she's taken the courage and the boldness of their mothers one step. A lot of women don't take shh, and they're ready to just stand their grounds. And if the relationship ain't working, even if they're married and you put a finger on it, they'll be like, I'll Vida Zayn in a minute. And unfortunately, our men have made them very, very tough and hard. Sometimes I miss the tenderness, because there's so many sisters out there just disappointed. They're just like, man, they're plain dogs, man. Shh. You know, but I love my sisters, and I love the way they're stepping out into the future and actually commanding respect worldwide. So men may be making the noises, but the women are the movers and shakers. Respect. When my parents decided to come together to bring Europe and Africa together, they had a dream. They wanted to merge the best of both worlds, and I have to live up to that dream. And each and every day I remind myself, my given name is Adegoke, and I have to live up to that destiny and to that name.
You represent with the quintessence of an African queen. No need to hide it, no need to fake it. Let the world see it, appreciate it. You're beautiful when you're real to yourself. How come you belittle yourself? You're perfect and second to none. Consummates alignment, moving sun. When you're wings in the air, with them up high and in. Show the world, let them see you're a Lagos Bobby. When you're wings in the air, with them up high.
Wale Ojo is a prolific actor, not just on stage, but also in TV and film. And he has numerous credits on all kinds of productions, both home and abroad. Plus, he has a very peculiar insight into our industry.
Will you join me?
My name is Wale Ojo. I'm from Ibadan, Oyo State, born and bred. And I was educated at International School, Ibadan. And then from there I went on to a place called Mayfield College in the United Kingdom. And then I went to university and then graduated in dramatic art. And what are we saying? Some 30 years later, here I am. I actually started acting in Nigeria as a child actor. The people that schooled me were people like Olumide Bakari, Tunji Fatilewa, Akin Lewis, Sam Loko Efe, because they were the tight-knit group of actors at NTA Ibadan at that time. And my uncle, Sam Igwe, who was part of a program called Mirror in the Sun, used to come to my house, to our house, because he was my mother's relative. And so my mother said, Wale's always drawing these caricature drawings and he's always playing around. He's very imaginative. So my uncle said, you must come with me to the television station. So around at the age of maybe 7 or 8, he'd put me at the back of his motorbike and we'd head off to NTA Ibadan. And that was where I fell in love with acting, because I used to act in the television. And I was the first little boy in a series called Why Worry the Baba, which starred Akin Lewis, And that's really where my acting started. As far back as 1995, I've been bringing plays into Nigeria, as an actor and as a producer. And the one that comes notably to mind is a play called What the Butler Saw by Joe Orton, which is an adaptation of a Joe Orton play. And it was organized for me by Jaman and Nikolapo. And we performed at the Museum, which is just around the back here. And I've been doing that consistently. I also brought an adaptation of Moliere's Scapan, like 2 years after that. And so I've been coming and going and doing different productions. I've reached a fairly ripe age at the moment. I've done most of the major theaters in the United Kingdom. I've done quite a lot of movies. I work with a lot of people. So once you've achieved that, if you like, that amount of work, you're never really out of it. So I could be anywhere in the world and I'll still be called to do works in Los Angeles, in London, and Germany and elsewhere. So, but I didn't want to grow old in England.
How much? 100 million US dollars.
Ooh.
I want the government to pay, not you. I'm not some local tyrant who recruits child soldiers and massacres whole villages. No, I will use the money to rebuild schools. These are not handouts. This is what we are owed as citizens of a free and equal Nigeria.
So for me, it was a natural progression, to move into setting up my own production company. A lot of what actually really also made me have a firm decision to be based at home rather than be based in London or in America and then move around was the fact that the phenomenon which we know today as Nollywood was growing, and I saw a kind of shift, in the making of those movies, and I remember knocking at the doors of the British Film Institute in London and saying that they should have a yearly Nigerian cinema festival, a festival in which they showcase Nigerian film, and they took up the idea. And I remember I then developed a concept called New Nigeria Cinema. And they said, what's New Nigeria Cinema? I said, well, New Nigeria Cinema is the child of Nollywood. We stand on the shoulders of those that have gone before us. And we're taking it, obviously onto a higher level, And that was where that movement started. The idea grew. So, I kept the name and developed it as a production company, and the whole point is to do really interesting stories, because I've worked in a lot of different places across the world, but nowhere inspires me more than the Nigerian stories. I always believe that a lot of homegrown talent that we have in Nigeria is actually a lot better than some of the talent you find in diaspora, and it's just been not discovered. I just happen to be in an environment where there was more access to producers. There was more access to the Hollywood, if you like, elite. If you have theatre experience in London, it goes a long way, towards getting you work on screen. And I thought, well, we've had homegrown theatre in Nigeria for a while, but we just don't have access to that kind of, if you like, what should we say, promotion, And it was just a question of me saying, well, then, if more of us came back home, those of us that have achieved, success in the diaspora, she came back home and nurtured it, what we have at home, the result will be very, very explosive. We're already competing, I think, in Nigerian cinema. We're already competing with movies abroad, but there's more to be done.
What do you say to them? The family?
Or what can you say?
I know. Pretending to be sad. That's what they pay me for, I always think.
Yeah, like newsreaders.
I would never have made that analogy, but you are right.
Anyway.
Will you join me?
I will.
My father loved this drink. Oh, yeah. He used to say, I like Bourbon. Do you like Bourbon?
We need more festivals like Afrif and the Amas, and also the MVCAs, but more so festivals where like minds are coming together. We're developing what we do, acting workshops, writing workshops. We need to invest more in writers. We need to write more original content. We need to develop theatre. We really need to develop theatre because the craft, the stage, the craft of learning acting through the stage is a wonderful discipline, and it helps you when you transfer that onto screen. And we need all that, and also we need to be able to embrace the largesse, people, what we have in Nigeria. The greatest export for a nation is its cultural image, and America does that really well. But we can do it even better. Because now we live in a global world, and it's a world that's constantly looking to Africa. And that's why I'm always against films that project a negative image of Africa. And I think we as Nigerian filmmakers can do a lot more. And there are some filmmakers that are doing. So there are powers that be that want to stick with that old negative stereotypical image of Africa. Well, it's going to change because we have a revolutionary concept right now, and it's happening with Nollywood more than any other cinematic genre in Africa. We are changing that narrative. Right now, Nollywood has proven that we don't need to beg government for money. We don't need it. But what we need is the political will to say, look, I will keep saying it. The greatest export of a country is its cultural image. So that when we go outside, we're not saying, "Oh, Nigeria, corruption, 419." No. Style is many fashionistas, and style is combining Africa with the modern. The neo-revolutionary Africanist of the future. Two different socks on the same body, two different pair of socks. Slippers with a jacket, pajamas at a corporate dinner. Three things that I know that can impede one's journey to success is immodesty, I too know, and bad belly. Cheat on my lover. The contemporary Nigerian woman, I think, is a neo-feminist of the future. We are leaving back the I stay and cook the food in the kitchen days. It's going, and it's going fast, and rightly so. A lot of guys may not like that. Tough. I like the Amazon African woman. Yeah, the one that will stand toe to toe and say, my friend, we are doing this together, And I think that's the contemporary African woman. Don't get me wrong, it's not the contemporary Nigerian woman grasping at a Western notion of feminism. No, it's not that. It's not that. The contemporary Nigerian woman still understands, the joy that the husband will get when he sees a nice bowl of pounded yam when he comes back from work. She understands that. But she also understands the concept of not letting nonsense fly by. That contemporary Nigerian woman right now will not let nonsense fly by, but she will still retain the Africanness in her. So that's why I call her the neo-Africanist of that future. My own personal philosophy is that I learn from what I see around me. I learn from observation. And in my observation, I've discovered that it all leads to a very simple four-letter word that's much abused. And that's love. All it costs is a simple act of your own heart, of your own soul, to reach the ideal philosophy which encompasses all of us, and it embraces all of us. And that is the divine love. And that is my philosophy. Every single day when I wake up, and every single second.
So we come to the end of another edition of the show. I sincerely hope you enjoyed watching it just as much as we enjoyed putting it together and presenting it to you. Now you know what to do. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, send us an email. We are excited to read from you and respond. Now, until I come your way with another edition of this show, I'm asking you to look after yourselves and let's be kind to one another.